Welcome back to the Accessible Art History YouTube channel. This week, I'm going to continue my Differences Between series with a comparison between Rococo and Neoclassical art. For being right next to each other on the art history timeline, these two artistic styles couldn't be more different. One is flowy and sensual, the other is rigid and authoritative. But could they just represent the two sides of human nature? To find out, keep on watching. Before we dive into the differences, however, it's important to establish historical background for these periods. First, we have the Rococo. Starting in France in the 1730s, this style was a reaction against the rigidity and formality of Louis XIV's court. It's famous for its pastel color palette, frilly decoration, and sensual themes. It's also where we see the development of the trompe-l'oeil ceiling frescoes that brought movement and drama into rooms. Some famous names from this period, and a few we'll meet later in this video, include Giovanni Battista Tiepolo, Antoine Watteau, François Boucher, Maurice Quintin de la Tour, and Jean Honier Fragonard. Following the Rococo period, we have the Neoclassical style. It's often considered a reaction to the flowy and sensual nature of Rococo art, and was inspired by 17th century artist Nicolas Poussin. His art was considered rational and balanced, and therefore morally superior. It was also a reaction to the discoveries of ancient Roman sites like Pompeii and Herculaneum. In Neoclassical art, there was to be no sense of brushstrokes, only straight, clear lines and compositions. Artists mostly painted historical and mythological subjects, as they were considered the pinnacle of artistic achievement. Some well-known artists from this period, and again I'll discuss some of them later in this video, are Jacques-Louis David, Johann Zoffany, Antonio Canova, and Anton Raphael Mengs. Alright, now that we have the background out of the way, let's dive into the first major difference between these two periods: color palette. Firstly, Rococo art is known for its use of soft pastel colors. A great example of this is Antoine Watteau's Pilgrimage to the Isle of Cythera. Painted in 1717, the artist combined soft pinks, blues, and greens to create a mythical space from our collective imaginations. Everything looks plush or silky, as if we could reach out and feel it with our own fingertips. It evokes a dreamlike state for the viewer. Now let's look at the contrasting Neoclassical period. This art style focused on richer, more saturated pigments. Let's take a look at Jacques-Louis David's work, The Oath of the Hirashi. As you can see, the reds, blues, grays, and yellows are deeply saturated. They echo the solemnity of the scene and invoke a more serious tone than the previous period. Another major difference between these two periods are the themes that the artist chose to paint about. As I mentioned earlier, Rococo art was about the fleeting beauty of life. Elaborate dresses, secret trysts, and lush gardens. It was made to remind the viewer of the simple pleasures that the world had to offer. Let's take a look at one of the most famous Rococo paintings. It's called The Swing and was painted by Jean Honier Fragonard around 1767. This work is often considered to be the masterpiece of the era, and it's easy to see why. Although it might be a little bit hard to tell in our time, this work is blatantly sexual in nature. The beautiful young woman swings high in the air. A handsome young man reclines in the bushes and catches a peek up her skirt. Behind the couple is an older man pulling the swing and spying on their secret tryst. These details combined with the allusions to Venus and Cupid in the statuary, and it's easy to see how this work was so popular when it was created. In an interesting and dramatic shift, Neoclassical art focused heavily on historical and mythological events. They were considered the peak of human achievement, and therefore the most deserved of being captured by artists. Of course, to showcase this element, I had to choose Jacques-Louis David's work, The Coronation of Napoleon. It was painted a few years after the emperor was crowned in 1804, and stands at an impressive 6.2 meters by 9.8 meters, or 20 feet by 32 feet. David did a lot of research in order to capture the accuracy of the event. He worked to paint the true, or true-ish, likeness of each participant and attendee, and even included himself in the crowd. Of course, he did take some artistic liberty with small elements, but overall, it provides viewers with a magnificent snapshot of the event. He was memorializing this coronation for generations to come. The final difference of this video is how artists created the composition of their works. Rococo pieces are known for their asymmetry. This is likely because the term Rococo is actually derived from the word rocaille. This refers to the asymmetric design that was inspired by nature and popular in the Italian Baroque architecture. This flowed, no pun intended, out into other artistic mediums. For example, take a look at the sculpture called Prometheus Bound. It was created by French artist Nicolas Sebastian Adam. The title figure's cape flows wildly around him as he stretches up in a diagonal line. The eagle's wings open up in an opposite direction diagonal line, creating chaos and tension. The drama of the swirling lines keeps the viewer on their toes. But as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, neoclassical art was about clean lines and composition, not a hair or brush stroke out of place. So let's take a look at the sculpture, Venus Victrix by Antonio Canova. This piece is actually Napoleon's sister, Pauline Bonaparte, and was commissioned by her husband. Notice how the lines of her body mimic the lines of the couch she reclines on. Her arm is carefully placed on her leg to continue that clean horizontal line. Even her other arm, which rests at an angle, isn't out of place. It connects with her chin. This sculpture is so carefully composed, we almost forget that it's a nude sculpture of the emperor's sister. The Rococo and Neoclassical periods couldn't be more different, but they are equally beautiful and fascinating. Which one do you identify with? Let me know in the comments below.